Have you ever felt like your soul is trying to tell you something, but you can't find the words to explain it? That restless stirring deep inside isn't confusion, it's a divine signal calling you higher. What if the silence surrounding you isn't rejection, but preparation? What if heaven is whispering instead of shouting, because your next breakthrough depends on how well you can hear in the quiet? In this message from Spiritual Journals, you'll discover how what feels like stillness is actually the sound of heaven rearranging your life. Through this guided meditation and prophetic reflection, you'll learn to recognize God's voice in moments the world overlooks, to find purpose in waiting, and to feel peace even when nothing seems to move. The promise is simple yet life-changing. By the end of this video, you'll no longer fear the silence, you'll understand it as sacred. This is not just another motivational message, it's a holy encounter designed to awaken the purpose that's been growing inside you all along. So pause whatever you're doing and give yourself permission to be still, because this word is meant for you right now. Before we begin, I want to thank you deeply for being here. Every view, every prayer, every heart that listens helps us spread God's word further. Subscribe to Spiritual Journals and turn on the notifications so you'll never miss a moment meant to guide your journey toward healing, purpose, and divine connection. Let's step into the silence together. It's time to hear what heaven has been saying all along.
There comes a point in every chosen soul's journey when words simply fail. When the stirring inside your chest can't be translated into conversation. It isn't confusion. It's a sacred download from heaven that language can't yet carry. You feel it in the middle of the night when the world sleeps and something greater keeps you awake. You feel it when you stand in silence, aware that something invisible but undeniable is shifting inside you. That's not anxiety, it's alignment. That's not isolation, it's invitation. You are in the early stages of a spiritual awakening, and the weight you feel pressing on your heart isn't punishment, it's preparation. The reason it feels heavy is because it's holy. When God plants a divine calling in a person's life, it often comes wrapped in quiet discomfort. He doesn't announce it with trumpets or fireworks. He lets it grow in secret, like a seed buried in the soil, hidden from sight but alive with promise. In the same way a seed must remain underground before it blooms, your calling must remain hidden before it's revealed. God is not ignoring you, He's incubating you. The silence you're walking through is sacred because it's where roots take hold. In Scripture, Joseph understood this kind of silence. Before he stood before Pharaoh, before the robe of authority and recognition, he endured the quiet years of misunderstanding. His dreams were divine, but when he tried to explain them too early, others couldn't see what heaven had shown him. They called him proud, they dismissed his vision, and still God was shaping him in secret. The pit was not punishment, it was protection. The hidden years were not wasted, they were holy. The same is true for you. When you carry something that comes from heaven, it won't always make sense on earth. Some people will misread your stillness as weakness, your quietness is uncertainty, but you are not shrinking, you are strengthening. Heaven often trusts its greatest assignments to those who can hold silence without surrendering faith. There is power in not explaining everything. There is authority in waiting until God gives you release to speak. Think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel told her she would carry the Savior of the world, she didn't rush to announce it. The Bible says she pondered these things in her heart. She understood that holy revelation needs time to mature before it can be shared. You are in that same sacred space. The Spirit is teaching you the language of stillness, where you learn to hear God without noise, to trust Him without confirmation, and to believe Him without audience applause. This is not the absence of movement, it's the refining of purpose. Every unanswered prayer, every misunderstanding, every moment you felt unseen has been shaping the vessel that will soon pour light into the world. The quiet season is not the valley of delay, it's the garden of becoming. While the world races ahead, God is building in you the strength to stand still and remain faithful when no one is watching. This is where spiritual awakening begins, not in the noise of achievement, but in the whisper of surrender. God often hides his most anointed children before he reveals them, not because they are unworthy, but because he is protecting what he placed inside them. The weight you feel is the glory of what's coming. The pressure you sense is heaven expanding your spirit to hold more light, more love, more wisdom. Don't curse the silence that's saving you. The call that rests on your life is delicate in its early form. It must be nurtured by prayer, watered by patience, and guarded from voices that don't understand its value. That's why your circle is smaller now. That's why your conversations are fewer. God is filtering your atmosphere to match your assignment. The wrong words can bruise a blooming purpose, but silence allows it to strengthen in divine timing. Remember how David was anointed long before he was appointed. Samuel poured the oil, but David went back to tending sheep. His calling was confirmed, yet his character was still in process. Those hidden fields became the training ground for his greatness. They were not a delay, they were a design. You may feel overlooked, but you're only being prepared in private for what will soon be revealed in public. When the moment comes, it will make sense why the silence lasted so long. Heaven is building endurance inside you because what's ahead requires strength, not speed. There's a reason Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading his people. There's a reason Jesus spent 30 years in obscurity before stepping into ministry. Every great movement of God begins with a season of quiet molding. The hidden call is heaven's classroom. You're learning how to listen when others complain, how to trust when answers are delayed, how to rest when everything around you screams for reaction. This is your sacred training for the life ahead. Don't let impatience make you abandon what's divine. The silence is not empty, it's alive with strategy. In that quiet place, you are being taught how to discern God's timing, how to carry his presence without performance, how to recognize his whispers in a world that only respects shouts. The spiritual awakening unfolding within you is not about doing more. It's about becoming more aware. Aware of God's hand in the unseen, aware of his mercy in the mundane, aware of his plan in the pauses. You are not falling behind. You are falling into alignment. The reason your soul feels heavy is because heaven is resting on you. So stay still, chosen one. Don't rush to explain what God is only beginning to reveal. Your silence is not neglect, it's anointed protection. Every moment of quiet obedience is building a foundation that will one day carry nations. What you're holding is sacred. Guard it well. The quiet you are in is not empty, it's the womb of resurrection. And when the time is right, what has been growing unseen will burst forth in light so radiant that even your silence will tell the story. This is not the end of your waiting. It's the beginning of your becoming. Hold your peace. Heaven is speaking through your stillness.
When God begins to move, he doesn't always announce it with noise or spectacle, and that truth becomes a gentle doorway into peace because sometimes the loudest miracles are hidden inside a silence so deep only trust can hear it, only faith can feel it, and only patience can hold it without breaking. The stillness you're standing in is not a pause in your purpose. It is the place where your roots go deeper and your vision gets clearer, where your heart learns the quiet rhythm of heaven and your mind loosens its grip on hurry. This is the sacred classroom where personal growth blooms not by striving, but by surrendering the urge to explain yourself, defend your steps, or rush to a finish line that God never drew. In Scripture, the prophet Elijah discovered this secret on a mountainside when wind, quake, and fire passed by, and God was not in any of them. But then came a gentle whisper, and heaven's voice met him in the sound of sheer silence. That same whisper is at work in you now, shaping your inner life with the precision that noise could never achieve, teaching you to distinguish reaction from revelation, impulse from instruction, and panic from peace. Your stillness is not a lack of courage, it is a chosen strength, a decision to be moved by the Spirit and not by pressure, a decision to let timing become your ally instead of your enemy. Think about the walls of Jericho that fell after a week of quiet marches and a final shout. The strategy began with silence because heaven was training Israel to move at God's rhythm, not at human urgency. And that is the rhythm you are learning today. Consider Mary, who treasured the promises spoken over Jesus and kept them in her heart. She modeled a faith that can hold a word without needing to broadcast it, a faith that lets truth mature in the dark before it blossoms in the light. Think of Jesus himself, who often withdrew to lonely places to pray. Before every public moment, there was a private silence where power was shaped, authority was anchored, and love was renewed. This is what your stillness is doing for you now. It is strengthening your roots so your branches can carry more fruit later. And it is protecting your heart from the strain of proving what God has already approved. You are not behind, you are becoming precise. The Spirit is sharpening your discernment so your yes is holy and your no is peaceful. So your next step is timely rather than hurried. This is personal growth that lasts, the kind that makes you steady when storms rise and gentle when others are tense, the kind that turns your waiting into wisdom and your quiet into confidence.
Remember when Moses stood at the edge of the Red Sea and the word was stand still and see the salvation of the Lord? Stillness was not surrender there, it was strategy, and the sea parted in the pause between fear and faith. Remember Habakkuk on the watchtower, waiting to see what God would say, because sometimes seeing follows listening, and clarity follows patience. Even Revelation speaks of a holy hush in heaven, a silence that precedes the next move of God, as if all of creation holds its breath while the divine plan aligns. And that is the kind of hush surrounding you now. Do not rush to perform for people who cannot see what God is arranging. Do not defend a direction that was not given by committee. Let the Lord teach you how to carry peace like armor and how to let peace make your decisions. The stillness is teaching you to breathe again, to pray without noise, to worship without audience, to rest without guilt, to listen for the currents beneath the surface where angels are aligning details you haven't seen. That conversation that feels delayed is being prepared so it bears better fruit. That opportunity that seemed to slip past is being reshaped so it fits your calling instead of forcing you to shrink to fit it. Heaven is synchronizing spaces and faces, aligning moments that honor your growth rather than drain it. And even the closed doors are part of the choreography that leads you toward doors you won't have to kick open. In the quiet, God is untangling motives so your next yes is clean, washing away bitterness so your next embrace is pure, healing the old ache so your new hope can breathe without fear. Personal growth in God's hands looks like strength without hardness, humility without erasing yourself, courage without noise, and joy that doesn't need permission to sing softly before it sings loudly. This silence is where you learn the art of heavenly timing, and timing is not only about when to move, it is about how to move, how to walk with grace, how to pause without losing momentum, how to step forward without stepping on your own peace. Think of David in the cave, anointed but not yet appointed. He had chances to rush the process, to fight his way onto a throne, and still he chose restraint because he trusted the God who had already named his future. Restraint is not weakness. Restraint is reverence for a plan too precise to be forced. When you feel the pressure to explain why you are quiet, just remember that Jesus kept silent before Pilate because destiny doesn't need defending when God is the author. Your stillness is a shield around your promise, a greenhouse for your faith, a sanctuary for your heart. In this hush, your soul hears what it missed in the noise, that you are beloved without performance, guided without panic, and held without having to hold everything together. The world will call you inactive when you choose the inner work, but heaven calls you wise because the strategy of stillness repairs your foundations so you can build higher without cracking. Let this quiet be your teacher. Let it stretch your capacity for peace. Let it deepen your prayer beyond words, your worship beyond music, your hope beyond evidence. You are learning how to move at the speed of trust, how to see at the pace of grace, how to choose at the frequency of faith. This is the kind of personal growth that does not collapse when the spotlight shifts, because it never relied on the spotlight to survive. Right now, angels are arranging provisions and people, softening hearts you have not met yet, preparing rooms you have not entered yet, and stitching together steps you will soon call alignment. What looks like stillness is synchronization. What feels like waiting is divine coordination. What seems like a hush is actually heaven's countdown to a release so gentle and so certain you will step into it as naturally as breathing. Keep your spirit quiet enough to hear the whisper that guides. Keep your hands open enough to receive what fits. Keep your heart soft enough to carry what lasts. The one who began this work in you is faithful, and he will complete it, not through frantic motion, but through holy movement, the kind that flows from rest, the kind that carries authority without anxiety. And when the moment comes to move, you will know it the way you know sunrise, not because someone shouted, but because light fills the room and your peace says, now.
Most people think breakthrough looks like fireworks, like thunder shaking the sky or applause filling the room. But for those who walk closely with God, breakthrough rarely arrives with noise. It slips in quietly, wrapped in simplicity, almost hidden beneath the routine of an ordinary day. It doesn't demand attention because heaven doesn't perform for an audience. The greatest moves of God often happen in silence, and what feels like nothing is usually everything. You may wake up one morning with no trumpet sounding, no angel announcing change, and yet something inside you will feel lighter. The bitterness you carried will suddenly lose its grip. The fear that once chased you will seem powerless. That, beloved, is breakthrough. That is God working so deeply within you that the transformation becomes invisible until it becomes undeniable. It's not small, it's sacred. The world may overlook it, but heaven calls it victory. Breakthrough is not always a storm that shakes the mountains. Sometimes it's a whisper that steadies your soul. It's the peace that sits quietly where panic used to reign. It's the positive mindset that suddenly blooms where despair once lived. That mindset is not a fragile wish or a borrowed optimism. It's the evidence that heaven has touched your perspective. God doesn't just change your circumstances, He changes the way you see them. A positive mindset is not denial of pain. It's the declaration that pain no longer defines you. It's the shift from "why me" to "use me." It's the moment when you realize that everything you've endured was never meant to break you, but to build you. Never meant to end you, but to awaken you. Think of Jesus at the tomb. There were no crowds when resurrection began, no thunder cracking open the sky, just the stillness of dawn and a stone rolling away under divine instruction. Heaven moved in silence, but that silence was loaded with power. The same is true for you. While others see quiet, heaven sees activity. While you see delay, heaven sees design. The silence around you isn't empty. It's full of motion unseen. God is shifting atmospheres, preparing opportunities, moving hearts, and aligning circumstances for your next season. The stone that once blocked your path is already being rolled away, not with fanfare, but with faithfulness. A positive mindset allows you to recognize these subtle miracles. It trains your spirit to see light even when the room is dim. It whispers to your heart that every small step forward counts. Every breath of peace matters. Every glimpse of hope is a sign that resurrection power is still working in you. This mindset doesn't depend on what's visible. It depends on who is invisible, but always present. The Apostle Paul understood this when he wrote, "We walk by faith, not by sight." Faith is not loud, but it is alive. It's the quiet conviction that even when nothing seems to move, God is still working behind the curtain of your circumstances. There is something holy about realizing that your growth doesn't need an audience. Heaven celebrates the progress that no one else sees, the forgiveness you offered,
the self-control you practiced, the courage you found to keep believing. These are not small victories. They are proof that breakthrough has already begun. Every time you choose to keep a positive mindset instead of giving up, heaven counts it as a win. Every time you speak life instead of complaint, light pierces through the darkness around you. Every time you trust the process instead of rushing the outcome, you mirror the patience of Christ himself.
Consider how often Jesus withdrew to quiet places. The miracles the world witnessed were born in those private prayers, in the spaces where only silence stood as witness. The same God who moved mountains through a whisper is moving through your quiet now. That's why you can't judge progress by noise. Some of the most powerful shifts in your life will happen when no one claps, no one notices, and no one understands. The Garden of Gethsemane didn't echo with celebration, but it was the moment heaven's greatest redemption plan was sealed. Likewise, your silent surrender is shaping a future full of strength and peace. This is why maintaining a positive mindset in silence is so vital. It's your way of agreeing with God, even before you see the result. When your mind aligns with His promise, your peace multiplies. The positive mindset is not pretending everything is fine. It's believing that God is making everything right. It's the strength to smile when you don't have all the answers, the faith to breathe deeply when the waiting stretches longer than expected, the choice to focus on His goodness instead of your discomfort. You are not waiting in vain. You are waiting with purpose. Look at Joseph again, trapped in a prison cell for a crime he didn't commit. No music, no miracles, no spotlight, just silence and faith. And yet that silence was God's workshop. The same stillness that looked like stagnation was actually preparation for elevation. Every quiet season carries a divine blueprint for your next. You are not forgotten in the silence. You are being prepared in it. The stillness around you is the incubator for divine surprises. So don't despise the days that feel uneventful. Don't let disappointment convince you that nothing is happening. Breakthrough often begins with a feeling of peace that doesn't make sense, with a calm that arrives before clarity. You'll notice your spirit isn't fighting the same battles anymore. The things that used to trigger fear will start to fade. That is the evidence of healing. That is the proof of growth. Heaven's progress rarely announces itself with noise. It reveals itself through your newfound peace. Keep your heart anchored in gratitude. Keep your thoughts pointed toward hope. Let your positive mindset become the altar where faith and patience meet. Speak life over your waiting, because your words shape your atmosphere. The same God who turned the tomb into a testimony is turning your quiet season into confirmation. The sound of silence is not the absence of miracles. It is the soundtrack of transformation. You may not hear the thunder, but the stone is already rolling. The stillness you're standing in is sacred ground, charged with unseen movement. Heaven is orchestrating details beyond your view. And when the moment of unveiling comes, you'll look back and realize that the quiet was never empty. It was filled with purpose, filled with progress, filled with God. And you'll see that your positive mindset didn't just carry you through the waiting, it invited heaven to move right where you are.
You've been patient long enough to learn that God's timing is not a punishment, it's a promise being perfected. There are seasons when it feels like life is standing still, like your prayers are trapped between heaven and earth. But in truth, you are standing in the workshop of divine precision. Every delay has been a design, every pause a preparation, every closed door a form of protection you couldn't yet understand. You see, heaven never rushes what it intends to last. And when God decides to move, everything aligns so perfectly that you'll look back and realize that every waiting season was a miracle disguised as stillness. The precision of God's timing is not about control, it's about care. He cares too much to let you walk into something half prepared. He loves you too deeply to let you receive what you're not yet ready to carry. This is the secret to peace in the waiting. The understanding that divine delay is never denial,
It's discipline dressed in mercy. The waiting season builds spiritual muscle, emotional maturity, and Christian mental health, because healthy faith requires a sound mind anchored in trust, not fear. The Apostle Paul wrote that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That sound mind is the fruit of waiting well. It's the mindset that doesn't collapse under uncertainty, but stands in quiet confidence, knowing that heaven's clock runs on love, not pressure. Every moment you thought was wasted was actually recalibrating your focus. Every setback was heaven's way of setting you up for something sacred. You might have watched others move ahead, chase opportunities, or celebrate wins while you sat in stillness, wondering if God forgot your name. But beloved, He didn't forget you. He was finishing the details of your destiny so you wouldn't have to force what was already ordained. There is peace in understanding that when God says not yet, He is protecting you from premature blessings that would crush you before they could crown you. Look at David, anointed as king while still tending sheep. He had the promise, but not yet the platform. He didn't rush the process. He trusted it. He allowed time to do what talent could not. His years in the field taught him how to lead from the heart before he led from the throne. That is the precision of divine timing. It is not random, it is relational. It's God saying, I see where you are, and I know when to lift you. Christian mental health begins to flourish when we release the anxiety of comparison and rest in the truth that God's timeline is tailor-made. You don't need to compete when heaven already has your calendar. You don't need to panic when your purpose is preserved in the hands of a faithful creator. Sometimes the precision of God's timing looks like interruption. Think about Lazarus. Jesus waited 4 days after his death before arriving at the tomb. To those watching, it looked like abandonment. But to heaven, it was a setup for resurrection. What seemed too late was actually right on time. That's how God works. He lets hope die so resurrection can teach you what ordinary healing never could. You may feel like your season has expired, but heaven's schedule never runs out. Your delay is not decay, it's divine choreography. The same God who spoke galaxies into place is synchronizing your next breakthrough down to the breath. You are not behind. You are right where grace intends you to be. And the evidence will soon follow, not in chaos, but in peace. The waiting is also a healing space for the mind. The pace of this world pressures you to perform, to prove, to produce constantly. But in the kingdom of God, peace is the priority. Rest is not laziness, it's leadership of the soul. Jesus often withdrew to lonely places not because he was weak, but because he was wise. He understood that spiritual authority flows from emotional stability. That is the core of Christian mental health, maintaining a heart at rest and a mind that trusts even when the evidence looks empty. You can't hear God clearly when your thoughts are racing. That's why he slows you down. The stillness you've been fighting against is the therapy your soul needed. It's where he heals your overthinking, rewires your reactions, and replaces fear with faith. You've also learned to observe rather than react. Others moved out of panic, but you waited for peace. Others grabbed what was available, but you waited for what was appointed. That wasn't hesitation, that was spiritual intelligence. Proverbs says, a wise person overlooks an offense. In other words, wisdom knows when to pause, when to breathe, and when to let the dust settle before speaking or acting. That's what you've been learning, how to let the noise burn out so clarity can rise. When you stop forcing answers, revelation found you. When you stop trying to fix everything, God started aligning everything. He is teaching you that movement without purpose drains you, but waiting with faith renews you. Right now, heaven is arranging what your heart has been asking for. You can't see all the moving pieces, but they are there. People are being placed in your path. Conversations are being prepared. Doors that once mocked you are about to swing wide open, not by accident, but by appointment. You are stepping into a moment where what was once blocked will flow with ease. The battles that used to consume your mind are losing power because God's timing brings peace with it. The blessing that is coming will fit so perfectly that you won't need to explain it. You'll just exhale and say, this must be God. Hold your peace in this process. Keep your thoughts anchored in hope. Guard your mental space as sacred ground where God still speaks. Speak over yourself words of life. I am not forgotten. I am not late. I am being refined. I am being readied. That's not denial, that's divine affirmation. The positive sound of faith protects the mind from despair. Every time you choose trust over worry,
you're building holy resilience. Every time you pause instead of panic, you're practicing spiritual balance. That's what true Christian mental health looks like. A mind renewed by grace and a heart resting in God's precision. And when the release finally comes, it won't just bless you, it will bless others through you. You'll carry calm into chaos. You'll carry wisdom into waiting hearts. You'll speak peace where others only saw delay. The testimony that emerges from your patience will remind others that heaven's clock is never broken. What once felt like wasted time will become the proof that God never misses. He's not just giving you what you prayed for. He's giving it when it will sustain you, when it will glorify Him, when it will complete the work He begun in you. So keep your eyes on His rhythm. Rest in His accuracy. Because when heaven moves, it's never too early, never too late. It's always right on time.
Chosen ones, your faith has not gone unnoticed. Every tear, every quiet prayer, every decision to trust God when nothing makes sense has been recorded in heaven. You may not have seen the evidence yet, but your faith has been echoing through eternity. That's the quiet power of faith. It moves mountains without making noise. It creates waves in the spirit before you ever see ripples in the natural. This is more than a Christian motivational speech. It's a divine reminder that heaven responds not to volume, but to belief. When you stayed faithful in silence, you were sending signals to the unseen world, declaring that your confidence is in God alone. There is something holy about the kind of faith that doesn't need applause to survive. It's the faith that whispers, "Even if I don't see it, I still believe." That's the kind of faith that separates the chosen from the casual. The world celebrates those who shout the loudest, but heaven celebrates those who stay the longest. You didn't break under pressure. You blossomed under it. You didn't let disappointment turn to despair. You turned it into devotion. And while others mistook your stillness for weakness, God saw it as strength. He saw how you resisted the urge to react, how you chose to respond with worship instead of worry. That's when your quiet faith became a weapon in the spirit realm. Faith is not measured by noise. It's measured by endurance. It's the steady heartbeat of trust that keeps going even when life feels like a long night. In the Bible, Abraham was promised a son, yet years passed in silence. Sarah's womb stayed empty, but Abraham's heart stayed full. He chose to believe God against all odds, and that belief was counted to him as righteousness. The quiet power of faith doesn't demand an explanation. It rests in expectation. It's the calm assurance that what God promised is already written into your destiny. And just like Abraham, your belief is about to birth something miraculous. When the world tells you to panic, faith says to pause. When fear says give up, faith says look up. That's what you've been doing, even when you didn't realize it. Your steady steps of trust have drawn the attention of heaven. Angels are moving on your behalf right now. The doors you thought were locked are not locked. They're just waiting for the right moment to swing open. God doesn't waste a single act of faith, not even the smallest one. That time you prayed when you didn't feel like it, that time you forgave when you had every reason not to, that time you gave your last bit of energy to keep believing, all of it has been multiplied in heaven's hands. Faith is a seed that doesn't stop working just because it's buried. Beneath the soil of silence, something powerful has been growing. You can't see it yet, but it's pushing through. That's why you've been feeling the pressure lately. It's not punishment. It's the earth making room for your harvest. God is getting ready to show you what perseverance produces. In the book of Daniel, it says that Daniel prayed for 21 days with no visible answer. But from the moment he spoke, his prayer was heard. The delay wasn't denial. It was spiritual resistance. And yet his consistency broke through. That's what your quiet faith has done. It's broken resistance. It's shifted atmospheres. It's invited divine intervention. The quiet power of faith is not about striving. It's about surrender. You've learned to let go of outcomes and hold on to God's hand. That surrender didn't make you weaker. It made you unstoppable. Faith is not loud confidence, it's peaceful assurance. It's what lets you rest even when results haven't arrived. It's what helps you breathe when life feels heavy. Faith doesn't erase your humanity, it redeems it. It teaches you to see pain through the lens of purpose and waiting through the lens of wisdom. Jesus himself modeled this quiet power. When storms surrounded the boat, he didn't shout at the wind immediately. He slept first. His peace was louder than the storm. That's the kind of faith he's been building in you. You may not even realize it, but your ability to stay calm in chaos is a reflection of divine maturity. Heaven has been watching that growth with joy. You are not the same person you were when the trial began. Your spirit is stronger. Your mind is clearer. Your perspective is higher. You've discovered that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of trust. And now something is shifting. The faith that carried you through the valley is about to carry you into victory. You didn't shout your way to this moment. You stayed. You didn't rush the process. You respected it. And now heaven is ready to honor what you built in private. The same faith that made you wait is the same faith that will make you win. The quiet seasons were never punishment. They were preparation for promotion. What was cultivated in secret will soon be celebrated in the open. So don't grow weary. Don't doubt the power of your patience. God is about to reveal why he made you wait, why he asked you to trust when it hurt, why he told you to be still when everything inside you wanted to run. He was training your faith to speak softly but move mountains. He was building a foundation that no disappointment could destroy. You are standing on holy ground, not because the battle ended, but because your belief didn't break. The quiet power of faith is not fragile, it's fierce. It is the calm before the comeback. It is the posture of one who knows that victory is certain, even when visibility is low. Heaven has heard your persistence. Angels have been dispatched. Doors are unlocking even now. You've reached the brink of transformation, not because you shouted, but because you stayed. Your stillness became your statement. Your loyalty became your launch. And your faith, your quiet, relentless, unshakable faith, became the bridge between the promise and its fulfillment. Hold steady. The same God who saw your tears in the dark is about to crown your endurance with light. And when it happens, you won't just say, God came through. You'll say, he was here all along.
Chosen ones, this is your confirmation that the silence you've been walking through was never a void, it was a vessel. Every quiet prayer, every whispered surrender, every moment you chose faith over fear has become a signal in heaven. God has been watching you grow stronger in the stillness, shaping you into someone unshakable. What once felt like delay was actually divine design. You've been learning mindfulness, not as a trend, but as a spiritual practice, an awareness of God's presence in every breath, every pause, every moment that seemed too quiet to matter. That awareness is transforming you from the inside out. If this message speaks to your heart, type in the comments, "I'm awakening through silence." Let it be your prophetic declaration, your reminder that stillness can be holy ground. Take a deep breath and thank God for the hidden places that birthed your strength. And before you go, take a moment to like this video as a sign of gratitude for what God is doing in your life right now. It helps this message reach more hearts who need this same peace. Then subscribe to Spiritual Journals and turn on the notifications so you can continue walking this journey with us, where chosen ones grow in wisdom, reflection, and divine peace. As we close, may your mind stay clear, your faith stay steady, and your heart rest in His timing. I pray that heaven surrounds you with calm, clarity, and courage. You are chosen. You are covered. You are loved.